Hey, it's Christian with St. Augustine TV. If you've ever driven through West Augustine, past the intersection of West King and Holmes Boulevard, you may have noticed something that looks out of place. A lone archway that stands in an open field. It reads Florida Memorial College. And if you're like me, you've probably wondered, what is that? Why is that there? That arch is the Abraham Lincoln Lewis Archway, the original entrance to Florida Memorial College. And this is the story.
In 1879, in Live Oak, Florida, the Florida Baptist Institute was founded. The school was created to be, in its own words, a college of instruction for our ministers and children. It existed to educate formerly enslaved people and their descendants at a time when opportunities for black education in the South were scarce and often violently opposed. In April of 1892, racial tensions erupted. Shots were fired into one of the school's buildings. In response, teachers and students fled Live Oak and reestablished the school in Jacksonville under a new name, Florida Baptist Academy. Classes were held in the basement of Bethel Baptist Church, guided by Reverend Matthew Gilbert and educator Sarah Ann Blocker. Leadership soon passed to Nathan White Collier, who would serve as the president for more than 40 years, alongside Blocker as Dean of Women and Vice President. Their steady guidance shaped the institution's growth during some of the most dangerous decades for black advancement in the South. While in Jacksonville, music teacher at the time, J. Rosamond Johnson, composed the melody for his brother James Weldon Johnson's poem, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Lift every voice and sing.
Promoted by the NAACP, the song remains known today as the Black National Anthem, and its roots trace directly back to this campus community.
In 1918, the school had outgrown Jacksonville. President Collier accepted an offer from the city of St. Augustine to relocate west of the historic district. The institution moved onto 400 acres, once part of the old Hanson plantation, land that had been worked by enslaved labor before the Civil War. For many, this relocation symbolized something profound, a reclamation. A school founded to educate the descendants of enslaved people now stood on land once used to oppress them. Renamed the Florida Normal and Industrial Institute, the school embraced industrial education inspired by Booker T. Washington, training students to become industrious and self-sufficient.
During the Jim Crow era, when racism intensified and support for black education was often resented, the campus kept a low profile. Buildings faced inward for safety. They were modest, practical, and largely hidden from the road. But within those grounds, student life flourished. By the 1920s, students were building campus structures themselves. They operated farms, dairies, and workshops. They produced vegetables, meat, milk, butter, and eggs for the dining hall. The campus included Anderson Hall, Fisher Hall, Bacon Hall, and the Heckscher Gymnasium. Even through the Great Depression, the school expanded academically. In 1941, it began offering four-year degrees. By 1945, the first class graduated with bachelor's degree in hand. The St. Augustine campus also became home to remarkable cultural figures. In 1942, acclaimed writer and anthropologist Zora Neale Hurston taught literature while living in St. Augustine. More than a decade later, in 1954, Langston Hughes, a leader of the Harlem Renaissance and colleague of Hurston, spoke to students at the invitation of the Student Christian Union. Their presence foreshadowed what would come next. In the 1950s and early 1960s, Florida Memorial students became deeply involved in the civil rights movement. An NAACP youth council formed on the campus. In March 1960, students staged sit-ins at the Woolworth lunch counter downtown. They collaborated with local organizations and with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Their activism created tension with city officials. Even after the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed, racist hostility continued. Local law enforcement declined to adequately protect the campus. For safety, the college trained and armed some male students to defend it. Enrollment declined as families feared for their children's safety. In 1965, the college purchased land in Dade County. Then, in 1968, after Dr. King's assassination, crosses were burned on Florida Memorial's front lawn.
That year, the college left St. Augustine for Miami, even though only 3 buildings were ready. Nearly a half-century later, in 2014, the mayor of St. Augustine formally apologized for the city's failure to protect Florida Memorial and its students. It was a long overdue acknowledgement of a strained and painful chapter in the city's history. Today, in West Augustine, Collier Blocker Puryear Park stands where the campus once thrived, named for 3 of the college's early leaders. The restored Abraham Lincoln Lewis Archway, the original entrance to the campus, still stands as a powerful reminder. It marks not only where the college once stood, but where generations of students built lives, challenged injustice, and transformed land once defined by enslavement into a place of learning, dignity, and courage. Florida Memorial's time in St. Augustine may have ended in 1968, but its legacy remains.
Let us march on till victory.
If we are going to build memorials to people, places, and events, it is our responsibility to maintain them.
We will march on.
Hey, thanks for watching. For more local history and content, don't forget to like and subscribe.